Hello, creative ones, and welcome to Mixed Media Art Fundamentals, brought to you by Mixed Media Art. Now, I'm Michelle, and I've spent over 10 years playing with art journaling and mixed media, and I wanted to wrap all the questions that I've had over the last 10 years and share those fundamentals, those basics, what you need to get started with you so that it does answer all your questions and hopefully inspire you to get creative, to become more confident in mixed media and art journaling. Now, please pop your questions in the comments. We've got so much to cover in this session as well as all the sessions across this 12 episodes. Make sure you give us a like, share us with your crafty friends, and of course subscribe so you will get all the updates. Now we are up to episode 11 and we're talking about weaving words into our mixed media art pieces. Now, why do we add words? Very similar to when we talked about adding a focal point. It's sort of the way that our contemporary mixed media works. Our heads love to see faces and images in a focal point, and we also love to see letters and words as well. It's a great way to preserve a quote or an aphorism that you might feel, or help tell a story in a piece, and it's just a fun thing to do. So today we'll talk about, where we can get our words from, how we can get them in our piece, and then I'll show you a whole heap of examples that I've had so much fun dragging out. Now, how do we find these words and add them to our stash? There are so many options. Now, of course, we can buy them from our local craft shops. There are pre-printed ones, there's stickers, there's rub-ons, there's transfers, there's die cuts. There are just so many different options. There's chipboard, all sorts of things that we can buy, but that doesn't always give us the best flexibility. So you can also create your own. Now, really simply, you can use your own handwriting, and if you're a calligrapher, well, the sky is definitely the limits there. And then, of course, you can print your own out on a computer, or you can use letter and number stamps and dies or stickers to create your own words and sayings as well. And it could be a combination of those. And when you've got bought ones, just perhaps look at them. So you don't have to use them all in one piece. It doesn't have to be a solid line. You can cut them up, you can rearrange them, and there's just so many different ways that we can then embed them in our piece to really help emphasize the message that we're trying to share with our piece. So really, the best way to adhere them is with gel medium, as we talked about in our adhesive section. Sometimes double-sided tape will work okay as well. And of course, you want to make sure your background that's underneath your words is not going to smudge, that it's waterproof, or if it is, just be really careful how you put these words on. And in that case, perhaps double-sided tape might work better than a gel medium. And of course, we want to make sure that it is completely dry before we move on to our next step and enhance it any further. Now, when we talked about focal points, we talked about deciding where to put them in composition, and it's similar with our words as well. Where our words go help tell that story. There are times where it makes it flow and it helps enhance the piece. There's other times when we can perhaps cut them up too small or put them in a funny arrangement that makes it a little bit hard, and I've got some examples of that too. So let's look through a few examples of things we've got to play with. So I had so much fun pulling all of these out. So firstly, let's look at a few of the different things that I've collected. We've got some Tim Holtz chipboard pieces, and they come all ready to glue on. Now they're definitely going to need some heavy glue or some double-sided tape. We've got some by Scrap Mats. We've got some of the Dina Wakley ones. She had a whole heap of different ones that she'd done with her typewriter. And again, we can use that as inspiration to create our own. Dina had some on tissue as well, and as we talked about, embedding tissue can be a really fun way to get some quotes on as well as an image. Like I said, we talked about letter stamps. We've got simple letter stamps. We can also get really big letter stamps, some phone stamps, and these are good when you want something a lot bigger. We can also get die cuts as well, and I'll show you some examples of those. So, Art by Marlene had a range of rub-ons, so these are really easy to cut out and put straight onto your work. And then, like I said, we can use our markers, and a good paint pen is a really good way to write it because we know that when it's dry, it'll be waterproof, and then if we do decide to put any layers over the top, it's not going to smudge any further. So a good paint pen is always a really handy way of adding words. So let's look at some examples. Now let's start off with something like our handwriting. Now some people love their handwriting, some people are less than enthusiastic. It certainly does add a personal touch, and quite often the reason that I will use it is because I'm in a hurry and I just want it done. I've got an idea in my head. I don't want to go and print something out or cut out letters and have to stick them on. And using and experimenting and playing with your handwriting can be a really fun way to add whatever words you want. So here I've added the word celebrate. Here's another example where I've done a combination of things. So like I said, you don't just have to do one thing. Here I've used some letter dies to cut out floral out of ephemera, stuck that on with gel medium, and then I've put a shadow around that with the paint pen, and then in a white paint pen I've written dreaming here. Again, it helps balance it because it's in two different fonts and it's not quite as heavy. If I'd cut floral out of that, it would have started becoming quite solid. And again, that's okay, but that was what I decided to do for that one. So we talked about the Art by Marlene transfers, and transfers are great because they don't have any background on them, so they're really good for mixed media because your background still shows through, and it's a way of being able to put your message down without worrying about it getting in the way of the background. Here's another one, I think it's a Dylusions one. Again, I've cut that out, put it into two pieces and stuck it down directly onto the canvas with the gel medium, and then used a paint pen to go around and highlight that. What else have I got in this piece? Now this was a really old one, but just playing with letters. So here I've created a bit of a Zentangle background and then created nice big bold letters that I could then use. I'm guessing this might have been twinkling H2Os or perhaps Inktense inks, just something to then have a play with. And it really did remind me how much fun I had doing big letters and colouring them in like that. So words can be the whole feature and the focal point. Here's another one that is a Scrap Mats one. So that was one of their chipboards that I've coloured in the ink or the paint, and then I've popped the Timeless in there. Again, this is quite thick, so I did edge it, just like we talked about with the focal points. I've gone around that in black ink so that it doesn't stand out quite so much. It helps embed it. What else have we got? So like I said, using our computer, so there's so many different ways that we can search online to find really good quotes as well. And this is a great one by Maya Angelou. Do the best until you know better, then do better. When you know better, do better. So again, you can see how I've broken it up, put it into two separate sections, and then of course put the attribution of the quote there as well. And once you can start doing that, then the sky really is the limit. Now this was printed with a toner printer, and I have put the layer of gel medium over the top of that as well to seal it, but I know that that wasn't going to run. What else did I bring to show you? So here's another one. This is a Dylusions one. Oh, I didn't tell you, it must have been none of your business. And again, here's an example where we've cut it up into three pieces, still kept it in that order, but it's just a way of breaking it up to make sure it fits in the piece that you're working on. Now here's one that I've done a combination of things. Now I've got some stamping here, but it is a little bit hard to see and it is quite dark. And so here I've said believe, change for no one, and believe in who you are. And even though I've cut that up, it doesn't read too badly, but again, it sort of, the eye jumps a bit over it as well. And that's something to really think about as we audition our words, as we put them in place, is sometimes we can break them up too far and it does make it feel a bit chunky. I've got some other examples of that as well, things that we might not want to do. Now this was a great quote. It says, what goes around comes around. And of course I thought I was very clever putting it around in a circle because that's what it says, but it is then really hard to read. So again, it's not impossible, but it does just make it that little bit harder to see what it's saying. And here's another great example of doing things in two different ways. So here I've used the large foam stamps to stamp smile, and then I've got smile. It is the key that fits the lock of everybody's heart. So again, I've cut that up maybe in too many pieces, but again, it helped put it across the two pages and helps tie it together. And you don't have to do it all one way. You can certainly do a combination of ways. And here's another one that I've done it in a combination of ways. So this one, I've used the large foam stamps with paint, and then I've cut out the letters. So I've got unorthodox belief, and again, I've got them overlapping. And then when this one, once it was dry, I've used some gold markers to highlight that as well. So letters can be fun. We can create shadows, we can put highlights on them, we can add color. There's so much that we can do with them. But there's just so many different ways that we can add words, we can put sayings, we can keep it simple, we can make it complex, but really is a way of help pulling that piece together with our focal point and sharing that message that we want to share. So I hope episode 11 of Weaving Words into Your Mixed Media Art has given you some ideas to look through your stash, or if you're just starting out, perhaps adding to your collection. So we can buy words in all sorts of different formats. They can be cutouts, they could be stickers, they could be rub-ons, or we could use found words in books that we've got. We can use our own handwriting. We can put them or put quotes on the computer and print them out. Use a label maker if you've got one. We can use stamps and stencils. There are just so many options, and it really does elevate our mixed media art. Now, of course, as we say, there are no rules, only guidelines. So if you decide adding words or quotes or aphorisms is not for you, that's fine. But I would encourage you to experiment. Perhaps, again, put one on, have a think about it, take a photo. Also take a photo with the words and quote off, and then see if you think it enhances it. And if it's not, that's fine. Leave it off. And there are other times perhaps making the word the whole piece, the focal point, and colouring that in. It can also be a really fun way to weave words into your mixed media art. So please pop any questions you've got in the comments. Give us a like, a share, of course, subscribe to our channel, and I really look forward to catching up with you again soon. This is Michelle signing off. I hope you have a crafty day.